To help with precision drawing and editing, Punch now provides a new tool to allow for precision coordinate input for drawing as well as for editing your drawing. To access, just click the button. The first drop-down provides methods for entering your coordinates: absolute, relative, absolute being always in relationship to the drawing origin, 0, 0, relative coordinates are relative to your last point picked. Coordinate system supported, the world coordinate system, working on a 2D work plane, polar coordinates, and relative polar. To experiment, we'll go up to our line tools, choose the line multiple tool, and we'll pick our first point, access the coordinate input dialog. Remember, there's two different drop-downs. The first is the method for input, so absolute or relative coordinate input, and then you have an option to choose which coordinate system you'd like to work with. We'll start with absolute. Starting at the origin of the drawing, for X, we'll plug in 2, so it draws 2 inches over from the origin. If I want to go up from that point, remember this is all absolute coordinates, so it will still be X equals 2, and in this case Y equals 1. To move over to the right, this is a change in X, so Y remains 1. It's still 1 up from the origin, and 3 for X. So as you work your way around with absolute coordinates, these are the coordinates defined in relationship with the actual drawing origin, 0, 0. Also notice you can plug in formulas. In this case, we've just put in 1 minus 3. We were 1 up, and we wanted to go down to minus 2. And at any point, you can also move your cursor and click to set a point. In drawing with absolute coordinates is not just a 2D feature. You can also do this in 3D. We've changed our view, used our mouse and cursor to set our starting point at the origin, and now we're using absolute coordinates to draw in the world or XYZ global coordinate system. And again, each point, even though now we're in 3D, is always in relationship with the absolute drawing origin, coordinate 0, 0. You can also again tab through the text edit controls for X, Y, and Z. Again, at any point, you can go back in and pick a point in your drawing and change where you're drawing from. And you'll see that you can actually create from the keyboard by just entering the absolute values here in the coordinate input dialog. And one last line. Next, let's explore relative coordinate input. We'll choose relative. Notice the last point is indicated. So relative coordinate input is the change in the X, Y, or Z coordinate value. You can also tab through to change the dx, dy, dz values. So in this case, you're entering your first point, and then the next coordinate will be the change in the x and or y and or z coordinate. So 2 inches to the right, regardless of where you are on the drawing page in relationship with 0, 0, 2 inches to the right will just be +2 for X and 0 for Y, 0 for Z. This is a great tool for doing floor plans, or if you are duplicating, for instance, a drawing that's dimensioned. And of course, just like absolute, relative coordinates can be used to draw in 3D as well. Again, using the line tool, we'll set our point at the origin. And now we'll work with the change in Z so that we can draw straight up. Remember, the relative coordinates are relative to your last point. So simply enter in where you want to draw to from where you're at right now. It's as easy as that. This is a great tool for drawing floor plans, by the way. Again, for any other drafting task where you're trying to duplicate measurements that you may already have. Even if you've gone out and taken field measurements and written them down with sketches and notes on a napkin, and you need to be able to translate that into a scale drawing. Great tool for that also. And remember, anytime you want, you can use your mouse to click and set points. This precision coordinate entry makes it easy to place circles, holes. In this case, we'll use absolute coordinates, and we'll place a couple of circles, first at the origin. And remember, in absolute mode, the center of this circle, in this case, will be placed at whatever absolute coordinates that we enter. This is great for milling and other kinds of sheet metal and mechanical applications. We'll delete that, and now let's talk about relative again. Switch to relative mode. Specify. We'll set our from point or last point at the corner. Now we're going to place holes from or in relationship with that corner we just specified. So 1 inch over, another inch over. Now we're going to go 2 up. 1, 0, so just 1 inch over, and again. And now 2 inches straight down. Very easy to position things based on the thing previously set. Now we'll delete those. Talk about a couple of other options. Select our circle tool again. Now we'll go to the distance along entity option. We'll set this for 2 inches. And as I move my cursor over the segment, you'll see a snap point is created 2 inches from the closest corner. There's also an option, percent along entity. Set this for 30. And you'll see that a snap point is created 30% of the total length out from the closest endpoint. Same thing for 15%. So it's the percentage out from the closest endpoint, but the percentage of the length of the entire segment your cursor is over. Of course, these tools are not just for drawing, they're for editing as well. So we've selected our group of geometry here. We'll choose the Translate tool, pick our from point, and using the relative input mode, we'll specify the corner, and we'll move that geometry to a point that's 1.125 inches from that corner. So this allows us to precisely move geometry around in the drawing as well. So we can draw it, and we can move or copy the geometry around also. Here we'll use relative polar. We'll take this group of geometry again, move it from here, and from this point we've specified, we'll go 1.2 inches at a 30-degree angle, and it moves that corner right up to where we've specified. Support has also been added to use standard polar coordinates for both drawing and editing using normal polar orientation as shown on the screen. We'll start at the origin. Shows 30-degree angles relative to the actual drawing origin. So we'll set another point at 0, 0 and enter in a new distance of 1.5 and a new angle. We'll enter 210 degrees. Again, these are all based on the actual drawing origin 0, 0. Now we can move our start point off of 0, 0, start our line, and then draw a line that's, say, 5 inches long and at a 30-degree angle. Remember, the angle is an absolute angle. It's the angle of the drawing origin to the point in absolute polar mode. So it's 30 degrees from the origin to that point we just drew to. Now let's delete these. In other cases, you know the length of the line, you know the angle of that individual line, but you don't necessarily care what angle that point is from the origin. So we'll set our first line, 1 inch at a 30-degree angle. Now we'll set another line. Just assume that that polar diagram is oriented around the point that we're at right now. When I say 1 inch at 90 degrees is straight up from the first point. So in this case, it's distance angle, and it's always the normal polar angle, but it's around the point that we're actually drawing from. An easy way to draw with distance and angle. Now there are those cases as well where you'll want to draw lines at odd angles and then draw lines relative to the angle of the previous line. So for instance, you have this line, and I want to draw a line relative to it. So we'll choose specify point 1 and point 2 and pick the two ends of those lines. And now we'll say the distance of the line we want to draw is 1 inch, and the angle is 90 degrees, and the 90 degrees is relative to the angle defined by point 1 to point 2. And now we've done that, so we'll start another line at that endpoint, point 1 here, point 2 here, and now we're going to say we're going to draw the next line at a 30-degree angle relative to those 2 points. Very powerful tool, making it easy to replicate dimension drawings.